Hello out there in Buenos Aires and YouTube land. Shanky Mike here of shankymike.com.ar, and today I'd like to go through a few points with the city's new interactive street map at www.mapa.buenosaires.gov as in Victor.ar. I think it's a tremendous web application, and for a city this size, the public transportation aspects that it gives are just tremendous. I don't think there's anything quite like it on planet Earth, so if any of you residents of great cities all over the world know of anything similar, please drop me a line. I can be reached at letters@shankymike.com.ar, and more importantly, the street map can be reached here. When you first enter the map, you'll hit a splash screen like this. Don't be scared. The traditional version can be found at this little link where it says click aquí, but today I'd like to talk about the beta version, which can be reached by this button, ingresar. There are so many features about this map that I haven't explored them all. As you can imagine, a city map like this might have a lot of things like police stations, fire stations, hospitals, universities. This one also has, interestingly enough, this city's bicycle routes, which you may have seen around town, which I think is pretty interesting. And there are also guides for having fun, such as theaters and cinemas and bars and clubs and even tango joints. But don't be surprised if your favorite place isn't there yet. It's a beta version, after all. I did find a little link down at the bottom called Contacto, in which you can click and a pop-up appears where you can give your name and your email and give comments, suggestions, advice, criticisms regarding the beta version, and hopefully the city will improve it even further and list all of our favorite places where we like to go. Let's close that here. The thing that really gets me going is the public transportation aspect. If you go to this tab here, Como Llegar, you get a pop-down that allows you to access the public transportation aspect of the interactive map. It'll also give you not only public transportation information, but driving instructions, even walking instructions. For right now, we're going to confine ourselves to public transportation. Over here, you can see a column that lists the various methods of public transportation: colectivo, subte, train. We're going to get rid of train and subte and just leave the public bus system. Sentido is the other column. Ida y vuelta, going and coming. Almost no city bus uses the same route going and returning, so we'll leave this at Ida. Caminar hasta is an interesting feature. It shows, or it allows you to show, how far you're willing to walk to a bus stop or from a bus stop in order to get to your destination. The default is 800 meters, something slightly less than a kilometer, and I think that works very well. Let's go ahead and punch in a couple of addresses here. Let's take a couple of quick small routes so that the map shows it to you very clearly. Let's imagine that you live somewhere in Microcentro. I'll just pick the corner of Esmeralda and Viamonte. So Esmeralda, you can see how easily the city's streets pop up at the bottom. You don't have to enter a complete address. You can put a street corner if you'd like. In this case, we'll put Esmeralda E, put a small y, Viamonte. And there it is in all its glory. Beautiful. Where are we going to go? Let's imagine that we'd like to go to Boulangerie Epi's new bakery location in Recoleta, which is at Montevideo 1567. So there you get to enter a complete address. Now, the magic begins. Let's go ahead and hit the little magnifying glass over here. And you can see that to our left, 6 possible bus routes pop down, and they are listed in ETA order, which is very convenient. and we can go ahead and click on one of them and see where it takes us. Now, one thing that makes this thing so important is that it does things that Google Maps can't do for you. Google Maps is a tremendous application, and God bless them, but they don't show Buenos Aires subtes. They don't show Buenos Aires surface trains, which are quite possibly the quickest way from point A to point B, depending on whether they're convenient for you or not. And they certainly don't address the city bus system, which is the soul of the city. And once you know the city bus system, the entire city is at your feet for approximately 25 US cents per trip. Before this map, and even during this period, the guillotine has been the Bible for anyone trying to get around town, especially on city buses, which is the way most people get around town. Guillotine is published in a lot of different formats, sometimes large, sometimes small. I don't want to knock it, because if you knock guillotine, somebody is going to come at you. It's the venerable guillotine, and with its date of publication emblazoned clearly on its cover, pulling a battered old copy out of your pocket is sort of an expat diploma, including your class of. So guillotine is a wonderful thing, and I still recommend it because the city's interactive map apparently still doesn't work on smartphones, giving us some sort of some portability problems. But the guillotine is not all that easy to use. For example, the guillotine divides the city's map up into a bunch of tiny little maps where streets are visible, and once you find the little tiny map where your origin is, you find an even tinier little square where you happen to be, and within that tiny little square on the opposing page shows all the buses that run down those various streets. It doesn't show you what street they run down. It doesn't show, but you probably know that anyway because it's a small area. Finding your destination is very much the same. You flip through the pages of guillotine to find the tiny map where your destination is. You find the even tinier little square, and you hope and pray that one of the buses that was in your origin's tiny square is in your destination's tiny square. If it is, and it's great, but you never know. The guillotine never tells you what route the bus is going to take. You know that you can get on at point A and get off at point B. You just don't know whether the bus is going to take you to the stockyards first. That's where the city's Mapa Interactivo comes in really great. For example, let's take the first example, which is listed in ETA order. The fastest bus, according to the city's Mapa Interactivo, is the 111. So let's click on the 111, and the magic begins. You get a little dialog box that drops down that shows you, that tells you how to get there. And over to the right, you see on the map, you see a colored square, a colored route showing the actual path that the bus will take. This one apparently goes from right there on the corner. Apparently there's a bus stop on the corner of Esmeralda and Viamonte. Goes down to what looks like Marcelo T. Alvear and takes you to this place here, where it drops you off, and you will have to walk to your destination indicated by this little red push pin. That's like what, 5.5 blocks. Not too bad. This is a short route anyway, but if it's raining, you might want to select another route. You can deselect the colored path of this route by going here to this colored icon and deselecting it. It disappears. In fact, if this route offends you so much, you can hit this little X, and the thing will actually just disappear completely from the map and from your list. The 60 is a famous bus in Buenos Aires. We click here, we get a drop down, we get a map. It looks like it goes right to the door of the bakery where you're going. However, you can see that you're going to have to walk about the same distance, 5.5 blocks, to catch the bus to begin with. That may not be agreeable to you. So you can close this dialog box by hitting the little minus sign over here, and you can deselect the colored line from the map by deselecting here. And now we're back to square one. I like to think that, with my experience, the 10 is probably the best route to take. And sure enough, the bus stop is right at your corner at Viamonte and Esmeralda. It goes down to what looks like Juncal, and then comes over. We'll drag the map down a little bit, and it looks like you might have to walk a block and a half. Not too bad at all. I also know that the 17 goes in that general direction, so we can click that. And you can see, I like this a lot, you can see an overlay of the two routes together and see the streets that they take and the streets that they share. And apparently the 17 leaves you here, where you have about a block, maybe a block and a half, to walk in the opposite direction to get to your destination. I think this is superb. We don't have time to get into the rest of the things that this thing does very well, especially the transfer function. The interactive map allows you to not only take a bus line to your destination, it will even indicate where you should transfer from one bus line to the other. That's something that the Guillotine, you can try and do it, but I think any expert that's tried to plot a bus transfer using the Guillotine has most likely given up and called a taxi, or maybe even stayed home. Let me know your thoughts and your comments about the Mapa Interactivo de Buenos Aires, the beta version. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And you can always find me at www.shankymike.com.ar at my blog, or please drop me a line at letters@shankymike.com.ar. Thanks, and see you around town.